Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to HaRav Gottlieb's articles in the back of Giving, otherwise known as Matan Torah. We're in the second essay on page 145. Let me just pull up the live stream in case anyone tunes in, has any questions. Or comments for that matter. Cleaving to God, otherwise known as Dvekut. The Rabbi Shlita begins. What would it be like to be in a state of cleaving to God, Dvekut, meaning to be one with Him, glued to Him, to have adhesion with Him? What would it be like? The more we have a longing to connect with God, the more God appears in our lives. The first step towards Dvekut is to develop the aspiration to reach a state of continual connection with God, a connection that is not static and abstract, but dynamic and tangible. Everything is dependent on our desire, on our ratzon. And as we learn, think good and it will be good. The Baal Shem Tov tells us, you are where your thoughts are. So naturally, the more you think about the Creator and regulate a consciousness that is connected to the source of all, the more and more you draw that into your reality. The whole world is running after and speaking about the law of attraction and quantum consciousness and how we input information into the unified field that is the oneness of all reality by means of the information that is our thoughts and our feelings. And therefore our intention, our consciousness is putting information into reality itself. This is observable in science today. And therefore we draw that reality upon ourselves. So naturally, the more we think about and connect to the Creator, the more we tangibly experience the Creator in our lives because we're drawing that reality upon ourselves. The Rebbe Shlita continues. We should contemplate that until we do reach this level, the level of Dvekut, cleaving to God, we have not yet achieved our purpose in being. Meaning this is the purpose of our lives. We are here in order to come to the ultimate spiritual state of consciousness, which is called in Hebrew Dvekut, which is cleaving to God, or having adhesion with God. And we'll learn more about it, but this is the goal. This is the spitz, the apex, the tippy-top point of why we're here, to refine ourselves and develop ourselves to be one, unified in consciousness with the Creator. Meaning to both experience the ultimate goodness, because the Creator Himself is the ultimate goodness, as the light that emanates from the Creator is the ultimate pleasure that we can experience, to be connected to Him. And by means of connecting to Him, we're fulfilling the purpose of creation, because He wants to give goodness to creation, as the principle teaches, more than the calf wants to suckle, the mother wants to nurse. Much more, infinitely and incomprehensibly more, than we want to receive pleasure in life. The Creator wants to infinitely more give us that pleasure, because He loves His children. We just need to refine ourselves in order to be fitting vessels to receive that light. Slowly but surely. First and foremost, we need to work on correcting ourselves and our character traits, our personality, in order that we come to this higher state of being. We'll get more into that. The Rebbe Shita continues. There have been only a few people that have concluded their individual work of perfecting their soul. They then continue to work for the benefit of the general soul, that single soul of which we all have a part of, and that originally was the soul of Adam Harishon, the first man. Personally, I think it's very hard to hear the notion that only a select few have reached this apex of spirituality, of spiritual consciousness. At the same time, the fact that we're here fact that we're alive, the fact that we have at the very least merited to even hear and read these words, these concepts, means that we have the opportunity to finish the job. That's why we're here, because we can. It's up to us. Most people in the world can live their whole lives without even hearing about this concept. So the fact that we're hearing it already implies how much closer and how much potential there is for us to achieve it with the Creator's help. They did not preach to others, being the ones who completely refine themselves and reach the highest levels of spirituality. They did not preach to others with an attitude of superiority, but rather focused on the Creator and their relationship with Him. They worked on themselves out of a sense that their individual souls were in need of correction, as all of our souls are in need of correction. And this attitude inspired others to work on correcting their souls. The focus was on their own work, because if you want to change the world, as the saying goes, change yourself. And by means of changing the self, you therefore change the world, because we're all interconnected in this unified field. We're all pieces of the same puzzle. So if you change one piece of the puzzle, you change the entire picture objectively, even if it's a little piece. With that said, the influence that is caused by means of that individual's work and achievement in spirituality is inspirational and can cause influence to those that are connected to them and surrounded by them. And even those that aren't connected to them, in an unconscious, unified way, there is an elevation of reality, and somehow, some way, an individual can even so be assisted by this spiritual master's work. And on the topic of quantum consciousness, again, the notion that our thoughts are electric and our thoughts are magnetic, and that we draw upon ourselves reality based on what's going on within. As Rabbi Nachman said, if someone is unhappy, they should pretend to be happy, and eventually they will come to happiness. Then he goes on to say that this is the same principle with any matter. If one wants to be this or that, or fix this trait and that trait, essentially, fake it till you make it is a deep spiritual principle. Because as far as the human being is concerned and how the brain works, there is no difference between the image in our mind's eye, in our imagination, and what we see with the actual eyes. The same exact processes occur in our minds. So literally, as the Baal Shem Tov says, as far as our brain is concerned, we are where our thoughts are. So if we can imagine to ourselves that we're already perfect, we've already reached Dvekut, the highest state of being, and we imagine to ourselves and ask ourselves practically, what would it be like to be in a state of cleaving to God? What does that feel like? And to sit and to experience and to impress our consciousness and our brains and wire ourselves and regulate ourselves, habituate ourselves to holy consciousness, to emunah consciousness, consciousness that is connected to the notion of the Creator and is all-encompassing being and goodness, and that everything that has ever happened, is happening, and will happen is coming from His root, which is His desire to give goodness to creation. That's it. So too, the tzaddik themselves, the person that achieves the highest level of spirituality, they're also inputting the information via their thoughts, intentions, and feelings. They're putting that information into the unified field, into the global soul, since we're all connected. And by means of that, they also help others get inspired and to do their own inner work to correct their souls. Simple enough. Think and it'll be good. In order to get to a state of cleaving to God, a person must undergo preparation. Although it's rare to merit individual perfection, sincere devotion to the Torah and the mitzvot provides a process of correction that enables each of us to shift the focus from our own needs to the needs of others. This process itself is the path to Dvekut, which has many levels. Our natural state is to imagine that we are essentially alone and must continually seek our own benefit and pleasure. Because of this, our character is at the opposite end of the spectrum from the divine character of selfless giving. It is this distance in character that results in our feeling that God is not with us, and in our failing to see the beneficence in God's management of the world. Just as people feel connected when they have a common attribute, so we need to acquire divine attributes in order to feel connected with God. As our sages have enjoined, quote, just as he is generous and merciful, also you be generous and merciful. From Masechet Shabbat of the Talmud 133b. The Torah supplies a means to work towards this. The principle is simple. Dvekut, adhesion, by the language of the Baal Sulam, is similarity of form. Closest in spirituality is a means of character, a state of being, a way of acting. Meaning you could have two people sit next to each other on a plane or on a train, shoulder to shoulder, and they can be thousands of worlds apart, literally. Or you can have someone who's 6,000 miles away, and you can be intimately connected with them in consciousness. Because connection and spirituality is a matter of character and a state of being, not physicality, God forbid. Continues the Rebbe Shita. The Holy Zohar divides the levels of Dvekut into two categories that relate to two distinct properties of the 613 Torah mitzvot. 613 attain, advice, and 613 pikudot, being deposits. The 613 attain are the different forms of advice that the mitzvot provide regarding how to be released from subservience to our desire to receive. They enable us to recognize the many varieties of our intention to receive and how bad it really is. The light within the mitzvot is akin to the candle that we light in a dark room the day before Pesach, Passover, to find the crumbs of bread left over in the room. Meaning the light in the mitzvot, and the Torah for that matter, provide a mechanism in our consciousness, on our innermost psychology, to be able to pinpoint and notice, become aware of the different aspects of ego within us, and to see truly how far we are from the desired goal of Dvekut. Just as the Creator is all giving, so too we must be all giving. To see the contrast and to feel that lack. That lack in essence is a prayer. Prayer is called in Kabbalistic language a lack. It's a chisaron in Hebrew. Because all lacks are vessels. And all vessels are to be filled with light. It's a necessary step in the process, but there's details to this, as we'll continue to learn. Gradually, they prepare us to develop a second nature of loving the other. This is the level of Dvekut, referred to by, quote, just as he is generous and merciful, also you, be generous and merciful. However, this is not the final level. Before we go on to 613 Pikudot, just to clarify, the notion of 613 eatin, 613 pieces of advice to leave egoism, to leave our self-love for ourselves alone. Not the holy self-love that's connected to our soul, being the aspect of giving within us, the aspect of self-love, of egoism, of just receiving for ourselves. We need to make a distinction on which self-love is the negative kind, because there is a holy self-love, certainly. Just as the Creator loves us, so too, of course, we must love ourselves. It's natural, but let's connect to the innermost true essence of self, being the soul and the quality of the soul, which is giving, not receiving for the self alone. With that said, all the mitzvot are commandments. Let's put it into simple language. It's a commandment by the Creator of everything. And I naturally want to do what I want to do. I don't care. I want to follow my own path, my own way. So intrinsically, at least depending on the level, the commandment itself is against my desire. There's already some resistance. So by means of doing it, I'm already stepping outside of myself, whether the commandment is between an individual and the Creator, or individual and another, man and man or man and God. Either way, they're pieces of advice, meaning each mitzvah has to do with stepping outside of the self. In potential, it turns out often our mitzvot and our Torah learning is also for the self alone. Even if we help the other, it's for personal gain. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's no other way. The point here is to become ever more aware, slowly but surely, drop by drop, to see the true state of egoism within, and by means of that awareness, to slowly but surely build a bigger vessel that will be able to get more and more light that assists us in coming ever so closer to the state of true giving, and therefore coming to a true connection with the Creator, Dvekut. So the next level is the 613 Pikudot. The 613 Pikudot refer to the unique quality of divine light that is deposited in each of the 613 mitzvot. The divine light is not a physical light, but rather it is the desire to give selflessly. There are qualities of this light that can only be revealed to one who has already developed a character of loving the other by having followed the 613 eatin advices. Then the performance of each different mitzvah can reveal a quality of light that is specific to the mitzvah. The purpose of creation is that God should reveal these 613 deposits of light to the souls that He created. And this enables the ultimate realization of cleaving to God, which is hinting to the final level of our spirituality. To brush through the levels quickly, receiving to receive, pure egoism, how we're born. We need to receive our basic needs. Babies are helpless. They can only do what they can do, eat, sleep, and the like. Eventually we get to childhood and we're hopefully taught to give, to do good deeds, Torah and mitzvot. But even so, it's generally taught in the form of receiving reward. Do the good deed, get the piece of candy. Simple enough. That's the stage of education. Giving to receive. And we spend most of our lives, if we're not our whole lives, unless we pass the threshold and receive the miracle from the Creator, which is called Yitzir Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, leaving our tsar, the restricted consciousness of self-love, meaning self-love, loving oneself alone. With that said, the next level is giving to give. Meaning, I'm giving to the other just because I love them. And that doesn't mean I'm not receiving pleasure. I certainly am, because I'm serving in a great individual. because every person is amazingly important and great, because every person has a holy, divine soul that is a portion of the Creator on high, so to speak. And that's incomprehensible. That's a relative infinity. So to serve anyone, let alone the Creator, is a great pleasure. But what the finale here, the ultimate realization of cleaving to God, the ultimate Dvekut, in fulfilling the purpose of creation, is receiving in order to give. Because the Creator wants to give us the goodness. As I mentioned, the statement by our sages, Chazal, more than the calf wants to suckle, the mother wants to nurse. More than we want to receive the light and receive pleasure and goodness, the Creator infinitely more wants to give it to us. So once we receive that level of refinement of our vessels of receiving, then we can receive that light and actually experience the pleasure altruistically. Amazing. That's the notion of Shabbat. We experience Oneg Shabbat. We enjoy good foods, sleep a little bit, learn beautiful Torah, our favorite types of Torah. We enjoy. The Creator wants us to enjoy. We're enjoying and receiving goodness in order to give goodness to Him and give pleasure to Him because He wants us to enjoy. The Rebbe Shlita continues. Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag often said that there are a variety of tastes in spirituality, no less than that found in the material world. Just as there are dozens of types of food where each item has a different flavor, so to each mitzvah there was a different light. The Rebbe Shlita gave his own example to this, and that when he was growing up in Bnei Brak in Israel, one of the downsides of a bald head, slippery. When he was growing up in Bnei Brak in Israel, there was one type of cheese at the market. It wasn't so difficult. Today, let's go to a cheese market for that matter. Hundreds of cheeses. 300 cheeses. You would think for as many cheeses that there would at least be that many flavors in spirituality. If there could be so many flavors for different fruits and vegetables and anything in the world that we can enjoy, how much more so for spirituality, for the mitzvot, for learning Torah? Everything has an exacting flavor. A peach is not an apple is not an orange, so on and so forth. Specific flavors, tastes, pleasures in every unique mitzvah. He continues, however, so long as we are captive to our self-love, we sense no difference between the various mitzvot. For example, we feel no difference between wearing fringes on our garments and putting on phylacteries, meaning tefillin, because we actually feel nothing from either of these mitzvot. The primordial serpent, the snake of the Garden of Eden, the Nachash, was cursed with, quote, and you will eat dust all your life, from Bereshit, Genesis 2:14, which our sages interpreted to mean that whatever the serpent will eat will have the taste of dust. The inner meaning of the serpent is the representation of our desire to receive, our desire for pleasure, even in spirituality. And this pleasure was the temptation in the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. Eating this fruit creates the curse of our inability to taste the light in the mitzvah. Just as the snake ate the dust of the earth and everything tasted the same, so too, as long as we are under control and within the prison that is our egoism, Everything's like dust to us. It feels the same. It tastes the same. It doesn't matter whether it's Shabbos, or it's tefillin, or it's tzitzit, or it's v'yahavter kamocha in any degree or capacity. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. However, when we read the Zohar and the writings of the Ari, we see, for example, that wearing fringes is connected to a particular, definable aspect of spirituality. And phylacteries is associated with a different particular quality of spirituality. We, however, cannot distinguish between them, and we feel nothing in this regard, so long as we are under the rule of the serpent aspect within us. So too, in theory, all of Jewish law, all of the halachot, are drawn from spiritual roots and exacting spiritual pleasures and measures. So even doing something as simple as putting on my right shoe and then my left shoe, and then tying my left and then tying my right, in that order specifically. Or picking up the Nagelwasser to wash my hands ritually, whether it's after the bathroom or when I first wake up in the morning, or after a long nap, whatever it is, pick it up with my right, pass it to my left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Everything is drawn from spiritual roots. Nothing is exempt from that. That is the law of reality. Everything here is drawn from physical. The physical reality is all drawn from spiritual roots. So even the small details that we can merit to keep and do can provide us also with different flavors. But again, as long as we're under the control of the serpent, being our egoism, we won't taste much. Maybe a little bit here and there. The Creator will throw us a bone. We'll get illuminations. We'll get some flavors. It'll taste good. But it won't be lasting. There'll be peaks and troughs, ups and downs, until we come to a consistent state of being unified with the Creator. The Rebbe ends the essay. As we continue to connect to God's light through the mitzvot, we reach higher and higher levels of refinement of soul. The single concern of a person at the highest level of loving the other is that God should be revealed to the world, with no interest for the benefit he or she individually receives from revelation. This is the level of complete devotion to the realization of God's purpose in creating the world, the sharing of divinity. I thought the purpose of the world is to give goodness to creation, or to have Dvekut. All the same, it's different language. Divinity is the Creator, it's nothing else. Eino Movado, just one power, just one aspect. He's made it so it seems otherwise, as if we see evil and darkness in the world, but that's only the Creator. Behind all the masks and veils, behind all the shells and shadows, it's just Hashem. And the sharing of divinity is the experience of the Creator, and that's the ultimate pleasure of being unified, of being one. Being in Dvekut. That's the end of the essay. With the Creator's help, next time, we're going to be learning about taking and giving. Thanks for tuning in. Don't see any questions. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at Polinovskiy, first name, last name, as seen in the video here, at gmail.com. Kol Tuv.